I'll argue that the famous 1960s slogan about San Francisco needs to be rewritten to "Are you leaving San Francisco?" This is the Dinesh D'Souza Show.
America needs this voice. The times are crazy. In a time of confusion, division, and lies, we need a brave voice of reason, understanding, and truth. This is the Dinesh D'Souza Podcast.
Hey, you probably know the song from the 1960s, "Are You Going to San Francisco?" Well, not a whole lot of people are going to San Francisco these days. In fact, if the song was written today, you'd probably want to rewrite it, "Are you leaving San Francisco?" Now, major retail corporations are decamping out of San Francisco. And some of them are decamping out of California, but you don't actually have to leave California to be able to function, because quite frankly, in fact, I saw a video this morning on social media, and it had to do with a retail outlet in Tiburon, which is basically right there. It's a suburb of San Francisco. And guess what? While San Francisco is in ruins and is crime-ridden, it's ridden with these aggressive homeless characters, Tiburon is completely fine. In fact, they were showing a video of a retail store, and nothing is actually behind bars. Nothing is actually behind the glass. You have free access to the stuff that's in the store. And at the same time, in San Francisco, as a result of just horrendous policies, Nordstrom is now leaving San Francisco. Wow. Walgreens is already out of there. CVS is gone. Whole Foods is gone from the downtown. Abercrombie and Fitch is gone. Saks is gone. Anthropologie. Office Depot has relocated. Crate & Barrel has closed its store. The Gap is closing its store soon. So you basically have an exodus from the once fashionable, once chic, and not only is you have this retail kind of exile or retail departure from San Francisco, you're now beginning to see that the office buildings in San Francisco downtown are emptying out. Think about that. So San Francisco's California Street, it's by the way, the street itself is like 4 miles. It runs right through the heart of the city, right through Chinatown. And typically it's the heart of the financial district, banks, insurance companies, high-tech companies. It was once thought to be almost like the headquarters of the global tech economy. To take a simple example, and I'm now quoting from the Wall Street Journal, one building at 350 California Street, it's a 22-floor glass and stone tower. It was worth $300 million in 2019. It's now for sale, and they're expecting to get $80 million. So in other words, this is an 80% decline in value of that building. Now, why? The reason the building is not worthless, but it's declined, it's plummeted in value, is because nobody's occupying the offices. Now, it should be said in fairness that some of this is the effect of post-COVID, which is to say after COVID, people work at home, they're staying at home, they aren't coming back to work, or now they come back to work 1 day a week. And this is a problem nationwide. It's also a problem in other cities. But San Francisco has been hit the hardest. And the reason it's been hit the hardest is because, first of all, a lot of the tech people are not coming back to work in the old way. And number two, it's because San Francisco has policies that have encouraged crime, have encouraged homelessness, and that has basically made the city an unattractive place to be. Many of the prominent corporate tenants are now they're not even waiting for their leases to end before they move out. They're subletting their offices if they can get rid of them. And the lack of filling up the office space in San Francisco is causing retailers to get out of there, and small businesses, restaurants are closing down. So nearly 30% of San Francisco's office space is vacant. And essentially when this happens, you have to reprice everything, which means that, it used to be when you get an office building in San Francisco, they would give you 3 months of free rent. Now new tenants who come to San Francisco are saying we want 18 months of free rent. And that's just a sign of a city that is deteriorating, of a city that's basically on its way down. San Francisco may, it turns out, end up the way of Detroit. And again, there's a reverberating effect. As I mentioned, when you have offices that are are empty. Now there are people who don't go to restaurants. But guess what? It is also the case that these offices are financed by banks. So banks will make loans, and the loans are aimed at financing these office buildings. And suddenly the banks realize that the people who run these office buildings are not going to be able to pay the bank back the principal and the interest. And so banks like Wells Fargo, which have bankrolled a bunch of buildings in San Francisco, suddenly have now got to put this sort of, we don't expect to get this money back on their balance sheets. That causes banking stocks to go down. So this is a very bad situation. The San Francisco mayor, London Breed, who's a liberal, but she's trying to she's now trying to realize I've got a problem here. So she's actually called for, let's get a few more cops on the street. Let's try to do something about the homeless problem. She's offering some tax incentives for businesses to relocate to San Francisco. But as often happens, this is like too little and too late. The problem is you've just got a deeply left-wing apparatus, a control structure running that city. And so you get one bad policy on top of another. I've talked separately, and we'll talk again about this reparations bill that's making its way through not specifically San Francisco, but California more generally. There's also been a lot of hate crime against Asian Americans in San Francisco. So I'm quoting here a guy who runs a real estate firm. He goes, there's a lot of hate crime against Asian Americans, by the way, most of it, frankly, by blacks. And we've had many Asian Americans on our team who refuse to come to the office. So this is another reason the offices are empty. The Asian guys who work, and he's like, we're not coming into work. We'll work at home if you want. And if not, we're going to go look for another job. So all of this means that San Francisco is a city, again, it could have pulled through. It could have survived COVID and recovered as some other cities are recovering. The problem, again, is just bad democratic policies enacted at the local level. And so San Francisco, to that degree, is getting what it voted for.
Houston is helping the homeless by closing encampments. Encampments are harmful to the residents and the city. Crime and drug dealing are commonplace in the encampments. Low-barrier navigation centers offer shelter and support for a better life. The Navigation Center acts as staging areas for more permanent housing. Common sense in Houston has resulted in the lowest homeless per capita rate. In the meantime, San Francisco and LA have the highest because they are more progressive.
Help and the promise of a safe place to sleep for Houston's homeless population. An encampment near Minute Maid Park was cleared out last week.
Today we got our first look at a new facility for dozens of people who once lived in what was known as Tent City. Taisha Walker is live at the Navigation Center on Jensen Drive in the 5th Ward. Taisha, the city's goal is to find permanent housing for the homeless.
And Keith, to be clear, this facility behind me is not a new shelter. It's just a temporary place for these folks to get resources. I spoke with some of these residents who say they are able to attain the goal of getting permanent housing quicker here than if they were to stay out on the streets and do it themselves.
It looks excellent.
Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner, along with the news media, got a tour of the week-old Navigation Center in the 5th Ward. Last week, the city of Houston shut down the homeless encampment on Chartres Street near 59, more commonly known as Tent City, which had been an eyesore for area businesses like Too Sweet. Ricardo Manriquez and more than 40 others agreed to leave the encampment and temporarily stay at the Navigation Center until the center can help him transition into permanent housing.
I tell everybody this is as close as you feel to normalcy again from being homeless, because there are very little rules here.
When you get here, you know that this is not home. This is a transition.
Mayor Turner says the city has been able to reduce homelessness by 63% since 2012, with fewer than 3,000 people experiencing homelessness, a model, he says, for other cities who have even toured the new center.
Having the lowest per capita homeless population in the country is not enough. When we still have brothers and sisters on our streets.
Since opening last week, the center has already found permanent housing for one individual. Within 60 days, the goal is to help the residents with employment, health care, mental health needs, and permanent housing.
I did a lot of praying for this.
Mayor Turner says with the new Navigation Center, Tent City should be gone for good.
where we can fence off, we will be fencing off. So in some of those areas, for example, you will see fencing coming. In the meantime, HPD, the hot teams, and others will be saying, no, these areas are not available.
A little bit more about the center behind me. It is co-ed and does not accept children or walk-ins. Their priority and the focus will be in placing people from off the street within the 5th Ward to this facility. Reporting live in the 5th Ward, Taisha Walker, KPRC 2 News.
All right, welcome site for many, Taisha. Thank you.